recording stopped.
My fault. I recorded to my computer instead of the cloud. I meant to record it to the cloud.
Oh, okay. Good. Well, we're going to start as we usually do with a brief meditation. So if you have anything on your lap, you might want to put it down and get yourself in a comfortable position so that you can relax and allow yourself to tune in and go where you go when you go. Welcome back, everybody. So glad to see you all on this beautiful day. At least it's a little cold, and that keeps people home so they can come to the meeting. I'm so excited. I'm so pleased that I was able to get in touch with Sonia again. I've known her since she was, what, you were about 10, I think, when I first met you. And her sister was she's a year younger, right? A little more than you. And I used to teach them music lessons, piano and flute. And they were such lovely, wonderful girls, and it's just so marvelous to see them grown up. It's just amazing. It happened so quickly. And it's a wonderful treat to have watched her career as she's reaching out now to people and helping so many people. It's truly marvelous. Most of you are aware that she's the daughter of Sonia Choquette, who has a long-standing important role in the city of Chicago's spiritual development, as well as the world now. And I'm going to just turn this over to Sonia and let her tell you about herself and what she's doing now and guide us in some wonderful ways. So thank you, Sonia, for being here. Bless you, bless you.
Hi, thank you so much for this beautiful introduction and for inviting me to come and connect with you all today. As Diane had said, yeah, I'm Chicago born and raised, but as you know, I grew up in an intuitive family, which I was very lucky and blessed, because in my world, the first sense that was the most important was my intuition, and everything else surrounded and was led by that. So today I feel like what I'm going to maybe do is I'll tell you some good stories, I'll give you some good tools, but most importantly, how to just better connect and develop not only with your own spirit, with your intuition as a way to lead. So let's see, where do I even begin? And I feel like, Diane, can I pin myself so that I am, let's see if I can, great, yay. So yeah, as somebody who's grown up in the world of spirit, the thing that I would say is that, our spirit world is very normal. And one of the things that I've seen over the past, my lifetime, is how much more this work has become mainstream, which has been really big. When I was a kid, the words psychic and psycho were not that far apart. But in my world and in my house, we spoke spirit. The first thing that we would do before asking anyone outside of ourselves was to ask, what does your intuition say? What does your spirit say? And then developing a relationship with that deep part of yourself, it will always lead you to your highest good, will always give you solutions, support, and it's what connects. And most importantly, it's your authentic self. And I'd say right now in the world, as things can feel so stratified in so many different ways, I find that the work that we do in connecting to our own intuition, connecting to the spirit and seeing the spirit of other people, not only is a healing force, but it really is the change that we need in the world. So I just first want to thank each and every one of you for coming and spending your afternoon with me here today. My earliest memories were definitely sitting in my mom's reading room. And Chicago, my mom used to have redo readings in her office. And what was so interesting was, for my sister and I, was like, this was such a sacred, but also normal space. You would walk into her place with just covered in books and crystals and cards, and you could just feel this holy, sacred vibration. And what I really learned, not only from my mom, but also from my Nana, is that, that is our innate divinity that resides within ourselves. And that when you really connect to the world of spirit, as you guys all do, you'll know that you can't get caught up in appearance. It's our least reliable sense. And that when you can start to look at the world, not as in through our head space, which is our intellect that helps us organize the world, but connected to our heart space, it's where we not only find solutions, but traction, and really where we find our own magic. So the first thing that I always like to think about is, like, we came in with a spirit, and your spirit, I always say, as soon as you took your first breath, your spirit is home. And even right now, you know, Diane just led us in that beautiful meditation, but even just in starting, one thing that I always like to do is even just start by putting like one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly, and just taking a deep breath in through your nose and exhale like you're exhaling out 10 birthday candles. And just bring your awareness from that headspace down into your heart, down into your belly at the breathing in and out. And then when we even just start to anchor in, we can start to pay attention to the unique, beautiful frequency and vibration that is you. And even as we start to just connect and really bring our awareness to that Holy Spirit that resides within us, we recognize that we're always supported, that we always are connected. And so, you know, even just gently opening your eyes and just feeling and bringing yourself back into the moment. You know, when we start to really see ourselves not only as spirit, but we start to pay attention to our own unique vibration. You know, each of us have a unique vibration. That is not only your own aura, but yourself. And from that place, that's where we can connect to our spirit, where we can connect to our guides, where we can connect to our helpers. And the more that we start to pay attention to that frequency, which is that divine heart frequency, the more easily we are able to connect with our intuition and each other. So I feel like since we have a small group, is it okay if I ask, like, if we interact? Sometimes I do breakout groups or different things like that. But yeah, I would say, you know, my first question I would just like to ask you guys, just what is your relationship with your intuition? What's your relationship like with your spirit? Do you pay attention to it? Is it something that you connect with? How do you experience your own spirit? You can both drop it in the chat. Yeah. Well, because when we really recognize it, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I definitely pay attention. If I don't, my guides hit me over the head.
Occasionally.
So I don't really have.
Yeah. So
Somebody.
Yeah, we got trying to develop mine. Oh, yeah, Kathy, I love that. And when we even just start by setting the intention, you know, and even just starting to pay attention, that's why I had you put your hand on your heart and hand in your belly, just even taking a moment to start to pay attention. Because a lot of times we can think the call is coming from outside the house. I'm in touch sometimes and other times not. Yeah. No. And when we start to really make the intention to start to connect with our beautiful spirit, you know, we recognize that it's not a mental frequency, but one that is embodied and expansive. So the very first thing that we have to start to recognize is that we are more than just our mental headspace. When we start to see ourselves as spiritual beings, when we start to really pay attention and really not only identify with our physical containers, but when we start to that which is a lower vibration, it's a vibration of our physicality, of our physical world, and start to really anchor into that heart space. That is our place of where we connect to the divine. You know, as not only spiritual beings, but also in connecting with our intuition, we have to recognize also that it's something that's totally normal. You came in as a divinely creative, intuitive being. And really what we're doing is not having to learn more skills, but it's almost like an unlearning and coming back into our physical containers. Your spirit lives in your body. It is here. And that's why it's so important that we start to pay attention to the sensations and the messages and the things that come through our physical portal. So I would just even like to say, you know, as we start to identify ourselves as spiritual beings, as we start to recognize that we have a whole constellation of help, and really all we have to start to do is open up and ask. When we start to ask and receive support from our intuition and from our spirit, that's when things start to really shift and change. So I feel like I have so many different ways to go and tools that I can really go, but I feel like I'm gonna start with even when we start to pay attention to some simple guidance and really start to set the intention. So even right now, in my world, we have two different parts of ourselves. We have our ego, and our ego is our human self. It's our personality. In my world, we think of it as your pet. Your ego is the part that separates you out from the world. This says, this is who I am. But also the ego, when we're not paying attention, when it's leading our life, it's not a good bus driver. Because the ego, because its very nature is to self-select out, it doesn't have an ability to connect. But that's not the natural leader of our life. The natural leader, your natural, beautiful, divine self is your spirit. And the more that we start to pay attention, not only to not who we believe we are, but to those subtle promptings of our heart space and to ourself, we'll recognize that we can start to train our ego to be in service to our spirit, which is the way that we're naturally designed to live. When we are in our spirit space, that is when we, like I said, come to solutions, have answers, connect with each other, open up to a whole constellation of support. So the way that we can tell if we're in our ego versus even in our spirit is, like I said, one, the ego self-selects out. It likes to, and when my family would like to call it your dog, your pet, you know, and your pet is the one that will patrol the borders. It's the one that will be even a little bit critical. It's the one that can kind of get into stories and different patterns, but also our ego is part of our human self that allows us to even share part of our gifts, while our spirit is different. Your spirit is the part of yourself that you know to be true, the things that you know about yourself that no one else has to tell you. It's the thing that elevates your vibration. And the quickest way to start to connect and elevate your spirit is start to think about the things that you love. Because when we get into the vibration of love, not only is that the vibration of our spirit and our guides, but that is where we really start to be able to recognize and feel these different frequencies. Even right now, just take a breath. And just notice and pay attention to how your body feels, how you feel, where you're breathing. Oh, intuition resides in the present moment. And that's where we have a moment and the choice to choose. So let's even just first, when we start to think about your spirit, what are the things that you know about yourself to be true? What are the things that you love? So when I think about what are the things that I love traveling. I love books. I love good underwear. I love delicious chocolate. I love dancing. I love sparkles. I love bubbles. I love laughing with my friends. I love cooking. And even if you can just start to notice right now, even as you start to talk about the things that we love, it elevates our frequency. We get out of the place of trying to of overthinking, but start to connect back to that heart space, and our whole vibration starts to elevate. So even here, just take a breath. And just start to think about, what are the things that you know about yourself to be true? What are the things that you absolutely love? Where are those moments that you can just find yourself and completely in flow? This is the portal, not only to your intuition, this is the portal to your spirit, this is the portal to your guides. This is your portal to listening. When we can really think about intuition as a listening faculty, that's where we can start to allow ourselves to really be able to connect. You know, when we can connect not only our hearts and our minds is where we really start to get in flow. So I'm going to give you a whole bunch of tools. And I already gave you a few right now. First tool, hand on your heart, hand on your belly, take a breath. Drop your attention into your heart space and feel it. And you'll notice that that chattering starts to quiet. That is your divine self. And it is there always. Anytime that you're in fight, overthinking, anytime you need support, that is a powerful, powerful tool. And if you only take one thing from my workshop, even just that alone will be a game changer. Second tool, when we start to think about it, naming and recognizing that you aren't just your physical body, that you are a divine spirit, and that there's nothing that you have to do, that it's a recoming home, that same place of reconnecting back in. Tool number 3, and I'm gonna give you a bunch of tools. Naming the things that you love. When we get into that radio frequency of connecting to the different things that we love, as simple as it may sound, like, oh, how, is where we start to not only get into a listening state, but where we get out of our heads and start to see the world from soul to soul instead of role to role, right? Now, when we can think about intuition, we can think about spirit, we can think about all of these beautiful things. You know, the thing that I was really blessed with was in my house growing up, instead of what people ask me, what do you think? My mom would say to me, what does your spirit say? And it always gave me a moment to pause and start to listen. Because if we could think about it, what we think, right? So you could be like, all right, I'm going to go for a new job. And our minds might get real up there and say, oh, well, I don't know if you're qualified, and I don't know if this is the right thing, and I don't know if it's the right time. And our whole self closes off. That is the language of the intellect. Our intellect, it likes to look at right, wrong, good, bad, all or nothing. And the thing that it loves is information. It wants all of the information in the whole wide world in order to make it feel safe. But the thing about the intellect is it'll never have enough. It'll never feel safe, because that's not how we connect to our own grounded safety. So the intellect will always thirst for more, while our spirit, right? So when we say, what do you think? That'll be your intellect. I don't know about this job. But we ask our spirit, what does your spirit say? What happens is your whole body starts to attune to listen. What does my spirit say? And taking a moment to pause. You know, when we think about the world of intuition, we think about the world of spirit, what I know to be true is it's a listening. And we're not listening for words. We're listening to vibration. We're listening to those subtle pulses, like a butterfly wing just on your face. And in our world that gets so busy, you know, I mean, we have screens, or we have things to do. We are constantly being vied for our attention. Is that we have to make it a priority to slow down and even just start to listen. So that's why I gave you some of those simple tools: hand on your heart, hand on your belly. Even there, even just throughout your day, as a way to start your day, to anchor yourself into your own vibration, will be a game changer. Now, when we think about intuition, and when we feel intuition, because it's not more than a mental thought, you know, it's a feeling. It resides in your body, as we have a gut feeling. Intuition resides in the present moment. That is where we're able to start to open up and listen to those different clues, listen to those different, those subtle impulses. And we have to really make and raise our own awareness. We have to make a choice to slow down and find those little sips, so that we can not only interweave our spirit and our intuition throughout our life, but so we can actually just start to pay attention. What I know to be true about the spiritual world is it's constantly sending you signs and signals, little things. And it's really a matter of, have you noticed? You know, or are we down in our phones? I know that I can be guilty. And so a lot of times our greatest challenge isn't that we're not connected, but is that, can we open up to support? Are we available to start to trust our guidance and raise our awareness to start to pay attention? You know, I've been teaching and doing readings and mentoring for a really long time. And just the other week I had a client, and I've been mentoring with her, and she's like, I really want to develop my intuition. So I said, okay, great. So your job this week, first anchor into your own spirit. And then I want you to just start to notice, pay attention in the present moment, ask your spirit, ask your intuition for some guidance. Ask for a sign. She says, all right, I'll ask for a sign. Now, talk to her the next week. She said, Sonia, so I asked my intuition for a sign, and I was asking to help my joy guides for some fun. And I get into my car, and the first thing I do is I turn on the radio, and you know what I hear? I hear my favorite song, but I don't know if that was I don't know if that was my spirit. I said, okay. And I said, well, then the next day I came in, and, you know, my neighbor gave me some flowers. She's going out of town. She brought me a big, beautiful bouquet of flowers and said, hey, I think you should have these. You know, I think you'll enjoy them. And ta-da, you know, again, like that's just, I mean, was that my intuition? I don't know. It was just my nice neighbor. And then I was driving down the street. I was driving and I'm asking my spirit for a sign, and a bird hit my windshield. Was that my spirit? Was that my guides? And I had to laugh. So I was like, all three of those are the ways that your spirit and your intuition is trying to speak to you. And that's where we can not notice, where we dismiss the signs, we dismiss the guidance, we dismiss the little magic that starts to come in, and always start to thirst for more. So when we think about the language of intuition, we think about the world as it's signs, it's symbols, it's those little impulses, it's those little things that start to show up. And our job is to start to acknowledge and take those in. So another big clue, pay attention. And a really another easy way is that we can start to write things down, because our intellect, like I said, our intellect is the part that likes to organize the world around us. Like I said, writes in right, wrong, good, bad, all, nothing. And what it's trying to do is protect us. It's a protective mechanism in the world. But when we start to really make a decision to really not only anchor into our intuition, but develop a deep relationship with our spirit, what we can do is even just start to notice and write down all of those ways that the spirit world is trying to get in touch with you. Maybe it's a song on a radio. Maybe it's a beautiful flower. Maybe it's a subtle moment, and write them down. Because what will happen is you'll start to notice that, because our intellect is linear, right? It has no access to creativity. It has no access to anything else. And so it will dismiss our different signs. But when you start to write them down, something funny will happen is you'll start to notice that those ways that are showing up, those signs will keep coming back through, and it will start to train your intellect, the part that's I don't know, to trust. And when we can think about not only even our own spirit, is first we have to start to really recognize and be open for help. Sometimes we don't notice that we aren't that available for support to come in. And even when we just start to set that intention, things start to shift. Now, the second thing that we really also want to do is to really recognize yourself as a spirit. Not your name, not your personality, but as a beautiful, magnificent spirit. You know, my Nana and my mom, for me, always talked about the spirit of ourselves and other people. And what you'll notice is, if you have any pets, if you have anything, everything has a spirit. They have their own unique vibration, their own unique frequency that comes in. And when we start to recognize ourselves as spirit, it changes the way that we look at the world. It changes the way that we move through the world. It starts to and even to recognize and pay attention to the spirit world, you need to start to recognize by recognizing that spirit in yourself. And when we recognize that spirit in ourselves, that you came in with something that's completely a distinct vibration that's different than your personality, that's like a radio frequency that manifests, that is just uniquely, divinely you. And that's different, like I said, than your personality, than your ego. And what I was even saying it the best way is, when we start to develop a relationship with our spirit, we start to look at the things of what makes us come alive. That's what I was saying. What are the things that you love? When you really recognize what makes you come alive as your spirit, what kind of spirit are you? Are you a creative spirit? Are you a thoughtful spirit? Are you somebody who's nurturing or dynamic or kind? Are you a little bit of a firecracker? And really, when you name these things, start to name them out loud. When we start to give voice, when we start to acknowledge, we move into ownership. Move into ownership, not only of our own gifts, but we have to remember that we are vibrational beings. Just like bats have sonar and we have the ocean waves, we are vibrational beings. The first organ in your body to develop is your heart. And that informs all of your other senses. It is 50,000 times more powerful than your head. The second organ to develop is the cochlear. It's the inner ear, and that's shaped like a spine. And that's what picks up on vibration. That's how we hear. And so this is another reason why speaking out loud is so important, is because when we start to speak out loud, you can start to hear the vibration. You start to notice, how does that feel? How does that resonate? Not is it right, is it wrong, but how does that feel? You know, what do I know about myself as my own spirit? My spirit is creative. My spirit is dynamic. My spirit is very kind and nurturing and fun and expansive. Those are the things that I know about my spirit. As I always were taught, when you name it, you claim it. When you name it, you claim it. You stop looking to other people to validate what you know about yourself to be true. And the more that you start to feed, anchor, pay attention to your spirit, it's like a beautiful flower. The more that it blossoms, the more that as we water it, just like any relationship, the more that you nurture your relationship with your own spirit, first by recognizing you are a spirit. That this is our, as my Nana would call this, your spacesuit, having a human experience. But when we acknowledge it, we start to see ourselves as embodied. And it starts to not only change the vibration, like I said, the more that we see the spirit in ourselves, the more that we'll see the spirit in others. And that also includes our spirit guides. So the big thing that I would just also say in that, it's like when we can start to see ourselves as spirits, and really we start to ask, like I said, how do we see each other as the same instead of how are we different? And that opens up incredible portals, not only of connection, but that also allows us to be leaders. The thing is you can tell when somebody's in what we call in their head. They have a few different signs when you are disconnected from your spirit. 1, there's no light in your eyes. 2, you have something we call drive-by eyes, where you look and look and look. 3, there's no humor. That's when our spirit is squeezed right out of our bodies. And so in starting to call those different things back and just starting to notice is where we start to connect back to our physical containers, our bodies. Your body is where your spirit resides. And so that's why it's so important to also just to not only have movement, to just notice, how does my body feel? Where am I? Am I in my head? Am I in a lot of talking? Or do I feel connected and grounded and nourished? When we really recognize our own spirit, the next thing that we have to do is start to notice what feeds your spirit. What are the things that what nourish and connects you and strengthens your relationship with your spirit? Before we can developing our intuition as a listening, before connecting to our guides, before anything like that, when we start to feed our own spirit, that's where it brings out not only our best selves, but we have to ask ourselves, what are the things that delight you? What are the things that bring you into moments of just zen? And I'm going to just take a minute and ask you to just feel that. Pay attention to that. And even noticing in your own body as you call these things to mind, how does it feel? How does that feel? How often do you give yourselves these beautiful moments that feed your magnificent, unique, gorgeous spirit? Is it a priority? And how can I make it more of a priority? The thing that I know about our spirit and about the spirit world is it doesn't need a lot, but it does need a little. And the more that we can slow down and pay attention, the more that we can feed and nourish our spirit, the more that everything within us blossoms. So for me, for example, some of the things that feed my spirit are incense and traveling, are dancing and music. And when my spirit loves storytelling and being creative, these are the things that feed my spirit. And if I don't feed my spirit, what will happen is we say squatters moving. That's when I can feel that I have way less patience, way less listening, where my head talks a lot more. So how much do you feed and prioritize? How much do you even know it feeds your spirit? This is the portal that connects us back from here, back down to our heart space. That is the portal of the divine. That is the portal of your intuition. That is the portal of deep listening. And it's innate. And when we can start to describe our spirit and really noticing the things that really delight you and bring out your best, you'll start to notice that the people around you have different spirits. For example, my sister, Sabrina, has a very different spirit than I do. My spirit's adventurous and creative, and my sister's spirit is very elegant. She's very grounded spirit. She's somebody who feeds on beauty. She loves routine. Her spirit is very different than mine. And even throughout your day and your life, just start to notice the different spirit of the people around you and describe them. What are they like? What makes them come alive? And when we really start to notice and pay attention to the spirit of others, something starts to change. We start to see with fresh eyes. Now, the next part that I'm going to say is, your spirit has a name. It's different than your personality. It's different than Sonia. And when you name your spirit, what happens is it allows you to easily tap into the spirit world. So, for example, I've told you a lot about my creative, expansive, gorgeous spirit. Now, my spirit's name is Peony. And Peony is a very different vibration than Sonia. Peony is my high, beautiful self. And so for you, and so even just a way to simply tap into the spirit world is you can just start by asking Peony. And I'm going to even ask for you today, just taking a moment. Now, you don't have to overthink it. It's not your permanent name forever, but it could be. Just start to open up to that different portal of listening. And even as I was asking right now, what's your spirit's name? You can even just, if you want to close your eyes and even just center your attention inwards, just even taking a breath. And you can say, my spirit's name is, and you can say it out loud, burp it up. My spirit's name is, and what shows up? I would love, draw me your spirit's name in the chat. How did it feel? Did something show up? Are you available? Or was there a part that's like, oh. I'm not sure, let me overthink it. Oh, what if I get it wrong? Because Soleil, I love that, Joy. Shakti, Diane. And even if you say Soleil, can you feel how that's a different vibration than Joy? Shakti, Diane, that's a different vibration than Diane. Peony, it's a different vibration than Sonia. When we name our spirit and we start to develop a relationship with it, we can recognize the ways that we can honor and express our beautiful spirit. our ego will back us into a corner. It'll have no solutions for us. It'll be the one that'll say, this is all there is. While our spirit will always come up with a creative solution. You know, as my Nana would say growing up, the situation is critical but never serious. When we start to recognize and connect back to our own creativity, because intuition and creativity are twins. They are one and the same. And the more that we can allow ourselves to jump into that place of creative expression and even of just wondering, I wonder, I'm curious, even when we just say the words, I wonder, what happens? For me, when I say I wonder, I start to listen. I wonder. Even if just that word, I wonder, of how it starts to put us into a listening state. Oh. So when we start to, like I was saying, the language of spirit won't overpower you. The language of your intuition won't overpower you. It's subtle. So this is why I'm giving you so many different little tools to start to reconnect back to your beautiful, innate, divine self. And when we start to recognize the world of spirit, it comes into light messages. Are the world of the language, as my mom would always say, the language, spirit doesn't speak English. It speaks in signs, in metaphors, in images, and it will leave you feeling light. It will leave you feeling light. And when we start to actually prioritize our spirit, and we have to make time for it, you know, it's just like anything else. The more that we attend and nurture our spirit and our intuition, the more that we put ourselves into a listening state, the more that our mind relaxes and the more that we're able to be guidable. Oh. So like even here, I just want, does anybody have any questions or anything? I feel like I've just been giving a lot of different tools. But yeah, and naming your spirit. And really, because when these are simple ways that we recognize, because our spirit, the spiritual world isn't mental, you know, it isn't mental, it's physical. So a good checklist to ask is how, you know, as my mom would say, how movable are you? Yeah. Oh, thank you, Kathy. Learn step by step. So I really appreciate you listening. Yeah. So our spirit resides in our bodies. And so what we have to recognize is that we have to move. The more movable we are, the more that we can even just be flexible, the more that we can move with our intuitive guidance. What I have found in teaching and this for years, it's not that being intuitive is special at all. It's that we will get our guidance, like I said at the very beginning, and we'll dismiss it, we'll overthink it. We'll wonder, is this right? Instead of asking the real question of, is this true? The intellect is the part that works in right, wrong, good, bad, all or nothing. It is the part that can self-select out. And how we can tell the difference of the signature between when we're in our intuition, in our listening state versus our head is we'll notice how our body feels. Your body is your direct feedback system to your spirit. So if we're in our head, there are a few telltale signs. One, our head likes to talk a lot. I like to say it's like a little rotisserie chicken on a spit. It goes around and around and around and around, right? It loves to should on you. Should, have to, must. Those are the words of the intellect. You have to do this. You should do this. And it doesn't give you choice, right? But when we pay, but the world, your intuition, your spirit, and your intuition is the voice of your spirit. And like I said, it doesn't speak a lot. It'll speak in just certain in vibration. And so instead of asking, is this right? Asking, does this resonate? And not here, but here. Even here, just taking a breath. we can start to move away from what is right to what is true for me, for now. We recognize that we always have choice. We move away from approval. We move away from asking out here to start to listening within here. How does that resonate? Is this true? It's always a good thing my mom would always say growing up. I would come in and we would, I'd tell her about, my new principal. I remember I had a new principal, and he came in, he was from a military school, went to a small private school in Evanston called Roycemore. And he came in from a military background, and he said, all right, nobody can color their hair. Everybody has to be a certain way. And I came in, and I was talking to my mom. I said, I have this new principal. I don't like him. He sounds terrible. And my mom paused, and she listened, and she was listening not to words, but to vibration. How did it feel? Right? We're talking about saying out loud. So is that true? And I remember stopping in my tracks and thinking, is that true? And my spirit had a very different answer than my head. My spirit told me, actually, tomorrow, go in to your middle school homeroom. I went to a small, in a pink wig. The day before he had come in, he was like, I'm Mr. Novick. I had no colored hair. I came from this military school, blah, blah, blah. So we had homeroom in the gym, and I went to a small school. So it's everybody in this teeny tiny gym. And my head was like, this is going to be a terrible year. But my spirit said, I don't know, go in and wear a pink colored wig to homeroom. And luckily I had very supportive parents. I walked down with my pink wig. My mom was like, what? I thought Mr. Novick said no more colored hair. I said, my spirit told me. My mom said, all right, I got you. Drives me to school, and I'm shaking. My head is saying, oh my goodness, you are in danger. You're going to get in trouble. What's going to happen? My spirit said, no, you walk in there. All right. Very different vibration. So I walk into the homeroom, very beginning of school, the whole, all of us are in this, and I sit down, and Mr. Novick delivers all the announcements. And at the very end says, Sonia, I'd like to see you in my office. And I'm like, dang, oh no, I knew this was coming. My head is like, oh, I don't want to get in trouble at school. My spirit is like, no, you're good. And I walk in and I sit down across from Mr. Novick, and I just look at him, and I'm, and he says, well, Sonia, yesterday I said that we aren't doing colored hair at school because the kids find it distracting. And I took a breath, and my head wanted to defend myself. These are all the reasons why I should. But learning, even that same hand on my heart, hand on my belly, to anchor in, and I let my spirit speak. And my spirit felt very different than my head. My head wanted to fight Mr. Novick and take him down. But my spirit said, I spoke and was like, Mr. Novick, I understand that you're new here, but in our world, we have a creative school, and this is a really important part of self-expression. And that was all I said. And I sat there, and I look at him, and he's looking at me, and I'm waiting for him to give me an attention. And he said, you're right, Sonia. You're right. And made an announcement the next day. I said, I'm wrong. I was wrong. You guys have the right, please, we are a small school. You should express yourself creatively. And that's the beautiful thing, is that's how we can start to pay attention to our spirit. Because our head will say, oh, no, caught up in appearance. This is how it is. But when we start to have that deeper listening, something interesting will show up, something that'll surprise you. Your intuition oftentimes will come in with a message, something that your little mind would not have had access to, and it will drop in. And not always will our intellect that likes to protect us believe it. It'll say, oh, well, we got to think about it. Right? But that's where we have to make a choice. Living an intuitive life is an act of radical honesty with yourself. It's listening within and using that as a compass that will guide you not to what is the right thing, but to what's true for you for now. And when we can start to come back into that listening state, make one move, then checking with my spirit. What does my spirit say? Even that, just even asking yourself that out loud, what does my spirit say? And just wait. Something interesting will happen. At first, you might feel a little weird. You know, you're in your car, like, what does my spirit say? You're like, oh, okay, well, my spirit says I'm talking to myself in my car. But once you start to open up the car, once you start talking, at first your intellect will have something to say, and then it will get quiet. And that's where our spirit can speak. What we forget is, you know, our spirit lives in our bodies, is connected to our heart space. This is why I said, what do you love? What are the things that you love? Notice how when you're doing, even thinking about those things, your vibration elevates. That's your spirit. That's what connects. That's what brings us into our feeling body. And the second part is we have our throats. This is the chimney. This is where we get cut off. We get an intuitive hit, a nudge, anything, and we don't pay attention. We don't speak it out. We don't take ownership of it. And what happens is when we get cut off here, our heads become like little rotisserie chickens on a spit, constantly trying to figure it out. So I'll give you another really simple, beautiful tool that can help you connect with your spirit. It's also fun. Sing. Put on your favorite song, one song a day, and sing and dance. You know, what we always say, you know, the spirit moved me. How movable are you? How movable are you? You know, you don't need to be, you know, necessarily running marathons, but just how much movement do you have? You know, the more that we can move, the more that we can be flexible, the more that we can start to speak things out, the more that we start to attend and pay attention to the vibration, the more that we move into ownership of who you are. This is a remembering. This isn't something that's out here, it's in here. So when we're thinking about not only the language of spirit, like I said, pay attention. Start to raise your awareness. First to yourself. First to how does my body feel? How do I feel? What is my spirit trying to say to me? Then recognize I am spirit. How can I feed and nurture this relationship? How can I watch it blossom? You know, as my mom would always say, your spirit doesn't need a lot, but it needs a little. and also, and you know, sometimes we can think that as meditation. That's a beautiful way to feed our spirit, but it also could be in dancing or cooking or something that connects you and brings you joy. Little ways, little itty bitty sips. The more you attend to it, the more that it will absolutely blossom. Then we have to ask ourselves, okay, so what does my spirit say? Like I said, puts ourselves in that listening state. And then start to say it out loud. My spirit says, go for a walk. I find it hard to balance accepting myself in that radical way while those around me don't. How do we find the right supportive community? I always seem to have two lives, mine with myself and me in the world. Yeah, that's a beautiful question. You know, what I know to be true. So I grew up, like I said, in a my mom was wrote all these books. I remember I went to college. And the worst thing that I thought is, I don't want anybody to know that I'm psychic. I don't want anybody to know that I'm intuitive. I don't want anybody to even know that I have a spiritual will. So I would do readings and I would do mentoring and I would do them in my car, literally. I'd be like, okay, you know, hit all my spiritual books. I was like, I'm totally normal, because if, God forbid, somebody found out that I was weird, woo-woo, that would be it. And so I was closeted for a lot of years. And then my senior year of college is when the financial crisis hit. You know, it was like everything. And all of a sudden I recognized that so many of my friends, so many of my peers didn't have this toolkit, didn't have this access to solutions. And I was like, all right, I gotta teach them. I gotta come out of the closet. And I remember sitting down with my first friend. I was like, okay, I'm going to come on. I'm going to tell them I'm intuitive. Oh my goodness. And the funny thing that happened, because in my head, I was really afraid that something terrible was going to happen. But you know what happened? Nothing. She was like, oh, great, cool. So I would say that when we can move into ownership, not only of our own gifts, but knowing who it is that we are through that place of your spirit, what happens is you don't look for approval. And that oftentimes when we, and even in my own journey of when I've felt like I can't be myself, when I feel like I couldn't be safe, that actually what I was saying was I wanted to have to explain myself to other people. When in reality, when I came out of the closet, an interesting thing happened, because what you do is you are a bright light and you become a leader in the world. And you may never know. All of a sudden, I'd have people coming out of the woodwork, telling me, let me tell you about my intuitive head. Let me tell you about my experience with my guides. Let me tell you about all of these different things. And what happened was that all these people who felt like they were in the closet alone in the dark, I was like, all of a sudden, I had a community. So I would say, and find yourself accepting yourself. It's like, this is where you really have to, what do you know about yourself to be true? And what do you love about yourself? That is your spirit. It doesn't have to be woo-woo or weird. And also, second of all, you don't have to explain yourself to anyone. Let yourself off the hook. A big thing that I've done is, for a long time, I didn't tell people what do you do for work? I'm a writer. No, I'm like, I write about intuition. And I lived in Paris for a while. And when I was in Paris, I remember it's a very intellectual country. They love it. And I was partying. Somebody asked me what I do. I said, I write books. Okay, well, what do you write books on? Intuition. So then I'm there, we're talking. So I don't believe in intuition. I don't believe in all of this. Prove it to me. What am I thinking? And I just said, no, that's okay. Let's change the subject. Let's talk about something else. Tell me about you. It's quiet, and then came back around. Well, I'm curious. I want to know more. And I said, no, it's okay. It's not your world. Let's talk about the bulls. And by the end of my night, he was just I said, well, you can buy my book. Well, can I book a reading with you? And I said, no, it's okay. It's all right. And he did. He followed up and wanted to book a reading, and I just wasn't that available. So 2 things, as my mom has always said, mind your business. You don't know what other people think. And a lot of times our own stories about who we can be and whether we're safe enough to be in the world happen here. And whether or not you have people who understand or even get it, you don't have to engage and can still have meaningful relationships and connections, but there's no part of yourself that has to defend yourself. No, because it's not radical. It's natural. If you look at every single leader in the world, Steve Jobs, you think about, I feel like any big actress, Oprah Winfrey, Bill Gates, what they credit their success to is their intuition. It's their intuition. And we can even think about it of how can we have a language that's approachable? And I'll even challenge you, ask people, how's your spirit today? It'll take people off. It'll surprise people. And what I've known is that people will actually answer you. They'll say, that's an interesting question. And give you an answer. And I'll say right here, you have a beautiful community of like-minded people who are here to support you. This is a beautiful container, and that we can create these little microcosms and nurture that light and bring it out into the world, because you have no idea of the effect that you'll have. And the more that you can anchor in and just know, I know who I am. I know who I am. I know who I am because I know my spirit. That's where we start to really have to attend. What do you know about yourself to be true? What are the things that you love? What are the things that connect you? Because no one and nothing can take that away from you. And that when you lead with that vibration, that is what is powerful. You know, it's our head that wants, it's our ego that wants us to make ourselves manageable, to be small. But that's not what connects. It's almost like bumper cars when we're in our egos. Oh, this person, oh, over here. This is who I am, over here. And when we can have that practice, the spirit in me is the same spirit in you. We can think of it as like a sun with a million, think about grass with a million different dewdrops. They're all the same light, all contained in different ways, but that's where you can have your own frequency. This is a remembering. This is an honoring. This is a place of where we pay attention. And it's not about information. You know, we get into the spiritual world, and I mean, my goodness, you can look at my bookshelf, you can look at all the different books, right? We get all these tools, we get all this information, and it's great. But information isn't connection. Information is where we can get kind of caught up. So this is why it's so important. How does it resonate? How does it feel in your body? Can you give yourself a moment of pause to listen? Can you give yourself a little space to even take a breath? The moment that we're in our heads, which happens all the time because our worlds are busy. I'm in my head. I'm not always, you know, always in my heart space sometimes, but when you can take a breath, you'll notice something happens. When we're in our heads, we get contracted. Our shoulders raise, our jaws get tight, our breathing is shallow. But even there, any moment that you find it difficult, just start, where am I breathing? Am I breathing here? I'm in my head. Or can I even just, another really beautiful tool, take a deep breath in through your nose, breathe up through your feet, let out the sound. That clears that throat chakra, puts us into a listening state. I cannot find any conflict in what you teach and what my religion teaches. Do you feel that way? My friends know me to be a Catholic spiritualist. You know, I don't find that, I find that what I have learned and how I teach and how I've grown is that it's not in conflict with any religion or anything, you know, because it is the language, a universal language of spirit. And that, you know, however we were raised, you know, everybody has their own philosophy and traditions, but when you really get down to the heart of it, it's a connecting language, because it's that innate divinity that resides within you. It is your connection to your higher self, to the universe, the support system, to your angels, to your guides, to your creative, magnetic, magnificent self. If we think about what we are here on earth to do, it is to be creative. It is to create. You came in as a creator. Every single thing in your life is a creation of an expression of your magnificence. And so when we can come back to that, we can start to recognize and see ourselves and honor not only ourselves, but the others in our life, everything blossoms. You know, that's where, like I said, how are we the same? How are we the same? What beautiful thing do I want to create with next? How can I come back to that place of being in the present moment? How can I recognize that what I know isn't all there is to know? And sometimes I feel like I know it all. No, but that's when I'm in my ego. But we do. You know, and the beautiful thing is when we can start to open up to support. And the first thing, like I was saying, is just to pay attention. Am I available? Am I available? Even that can be a really big switch. Even if I'm not sure, we can even move into a place of expectation of, I don't know. Let me see, let's find out. No, that puts us into that place of wonder, of being open, of listening, of being creative. You know, when we think you came in as singing, dancing, moving, beautiful, just yourself. And our work isn't about having to learn certain things or sitting on a meditation pillow or having to do anything right, but about of reconnecting and what brings you alive. And not just in helping, you know, a lot of times in our spiritual world, we're really good helpers. But when we can really just in that and honoring that and really attending, it's revolutionary. You know, it's revolutionary because what we can start to do is open up to help and support. And the fun, beautiful thing is it becomes like a game. That's the thing that I really want to also just impress. When we can connect to our spirit, it is your joyful, playful, creative, expansive self. And when we can start to navigate the world with that same openness, like, I wonder what's going to come up. I wonder what will happen. I wonder what solution will come into this problem that I would not have even imagined. You'll start to look for ways that your spirit, that your guides, that your intuition is guiding you. And it shows up all the time. The thing I'm going to say is really use your intuition. Ask your spirit every day, what does my spirit say? What does my spirit say? Really ask that and start to get into the habit. My spirit says, my spirit says, I want some ice cream. You know? My spirit says, you know, I need some quiet this week. You'll know. The funny thing is that it's our head that like say, oh, I don't know. That's a big thing. Watch just how quickly we'll say, I don't know, before we even take a moment to check in. What does my spirit say? What feeds my spirit? What does my spirit need? And giving it that space, and you'll start to develop your language of your spirit. Now, if you're somebody who gets into why we call mental constipation, you can't figure it out. You're here trying to connect to my spirit. All right, and I'm here and I got the tools and I'm still not getting anything. This is where we have to, what we say is take your dog for a run. When we don't move our bodies, our energy becomes stagnant. And what happens is we get into overthinking. We get into too much information. And so what we need to do is move ourselves physically. So first, think about what you want where you want guidance. And even just check in, am I open? Am I available? Do I really want a solution? Because sometimes I'm like, I don't want a solution yet. I like my problem. And that's okay. But just about being honest. So you're like, all right, I'm ready for it. And I would like some intuitive guidance. Spirit, help me. I need help. Be open for help. All right. Now, what I would love is then move your body. Put on a song that you love. Put on your my hairbrush song, singing. Blast that music and really sing it, dance it, have your Madonna moment, have your Beyonce moment. And even in doing that, notice how much inner resistance do you have? Because sometimes we'll have that resistance, and that's the resistance that says, ooh, but can I just turn it over? Can I be movable? Can I be flexible? And that as soon as we do that, as soon as we say, all right, I'm going to open up, sing it out, open up that throat chakra, moving our bodies, moving the energy out of mental back into physical, then you'll notice something amazing will happen. It will drop you into your heart space. It'll open up your whole vibration. And then ask, my spirit says. And what I'll encourage you to do too is, here's another tool, I'm just throwing a bunch, is come up with 40 solutions, 40 different things, and go fast like a ball. If I'm saying, oh, I need to go, should I go to this work conference? I don't know if I like this person. Or, oh, here's one. I had a client the other week who was saying, he is Indian and his wife is American, and they're having a wedding. And this gentleman was saying, I feel very stressed because there's so much tension, and I don't know how we're going to have a nice ceremony. I don't know, my family and all right. So I said, all right, let's come up with 40 solutions. What does your spirit say? And at first she's like, well, my spirit says that I should just tell my mom to get over it. And I was like, well, how does that feel? He's like, that was my head faking me out. I didn't feel right in my body. So we came up with another solution. All right, we're gonna have a dance party, and another solution. Well, I'm gonna, and going quick like a ball, you know, it's like all these different ones. He's like, well, I'll talk to my dad and I'll talk to my mom. And all of a sudden, what started happening is his head started to get quiet. And then all of a sudden his spirit started to speak. And out of nowhere popped, I need to apologize to my mom. And it was something that took him completely by surprise. He was like, wow, that's not something that had occurred to me before. And he did. You know, that's the thing of when we start to connect to our intuitive self, when we start to open up to solution, when we start to ask, when we start to even get ourselves into the habit, what'll happen is that more quickly and naturally our spirit and our intuition will start to not only speak to us, but guide us. We'll come up with things that our heads would have never, ever, ever imagined. That's how you know it's intuition. That's how you know it's guidance. You know, that's how you know. And when we stop and we think about it, like, oh, you know, what happens is we get into like stagnation, and that's when we're like, oh, was that the right answer? You know, for example, if you ever watch sports players, you know, even if you watch basketball players, they'll say, you know, how do you know a good basketball player? It says his body will follow the ball, and the last thing to move is his head. You know, that is how we can get into the flow state. Our bodies are receivers, and we are constantly picking up on things. We just have to give ourselves that space to listen. Recognize that not only we always have solution, but connection. I read many of your mom's book, and you were bright, like, oh, thank you, Karen. I really appreciate that beautiful feedback. You know, the work that we're doing, you know, each and every one of you who are here are not only light workers, but healers. You came in with a mission, and more than it is having to teach anyone anything, by leading by example, by allowing more of your spirit, what you do is you give people permission, the gift to do the same. We can be an example. And it's not about what you know, but about letting yourself be who you are. You are a unique manifestation of the divine. You're a unique, absolute gift. And we really have to remember that. We really do. It can be very easy to get into our critical selves of what we have to do better or more of, and even in our spiritual, you know, and I can sneak into our spiritual practices. Oh, I got to meditate more, and I got to X, Y, or Z, and I got to do all these different things. But when we can start to come back to what brings me joy, where is my play? Where is my fun? Where are those moments where I'm not in my thinking self? And how can I create more space in my life for that? And how can that portal be a healing, creative self? Your spirit, which is perfect. It is a pearl that within you, you cannot damage it. You can bury it. You could drop it off the top of the Cirrus Tower. I know it's the Willis Tower, but I always call it the Cirrus Tower. And it is perfect. There is, and really what we're doing in this work, more than it is anything, it's about uncovering, removing those pieces of debris that show up, of where people in the world told us it wasn't safe to be ourselves. And the only way that we can really start to move into ownership and heal that place is to start to give ourselves permission from here, that when we're here and we know ourselves, when you know your spirit, that you are safe, that you are protected, and that everything else is blah, blah, blah. And the magic, you start to see other people's spirit. You can see their barking dog. You say, okay, I don't take it so personally. You know, it's not about me. And your intuition, like I said, it is listening. It is a practice of listening. And it doesn't have to be a lot. Just even a little bit. What does my spirit say? where do I want guidance? The beautiful thing about your intuition is it works with direction. What would you want just next? A thing that we can get so caught up on is our minds go, you know, it's like climbing a mountain. It's already at the top of the peak when we haven't taken one step on the trail. So when you think about what do I want intuitive guidance on for me for now? What do I want to create next? Am I open and available for a solution that will surprise me? How can I take one little step in being available and then listening again? Now, when we start to see that place of that it is just step by step, listening, moment by moment by moment, what happens is we start to dance with the universe. We start to dance with the different flows of energy. And you'll remember, you'll be like, oh, I know this. I don't have to think about it so much. My thinking mind can help to organize, but it doesn't have to be in charge of my life. Because that part that is our thinking mind that gets like here, it's like looking through a peephole, that's how much information it has. Well, our spirit's like opening the door. It's got access to everything. And when we move out of that place of trying to figure it out, when our intellect can be in service to our spirit, your spirit say, okay, this is what I want intuitive guidance on. Anything. Even where to eat dinner, doesn't have to be a big deal. I think sometimes we're like, oh, I want intuitive guidance on whether or not I should sell my home and move to Timbuktu. And we're like, that's high stakes. And I haven't even had a practice of listening yet. We can interweave our intuition. Like, what do I want for dinner? What does my spirit say? How does this feel? What surprise when I go on my walk? How can I bring my attention? These little ways that start to build our psychic muscles. What happens then is our intellect, that part that organizes, relaxes, and in service to our spirit. It says, let me help you. You know, our ego that we talk about, we say our little barking dog, is not your pet isn't a problem. They're just trying to help. But just like you know, if you've ever had a dog, with your dog doesn't, you know, you train your pet. You train your pet to not poop all over your house. And you know what happens? You relax and your dog relaxes. You need to know, knowing where the boundaries are, and how we can do that is developing a relationship with our spirit and connecting it to that intellect part of ourselves. And a really easy way to do that, and I'll bring it all the way back, hand on your heart, hand on your belly. Deep breath, in through your nose, breathing out through your mouth. And just spending a few moments there. And what will happen is you can start to even call in your spirit, calling in your spirit's name in that space, talking to Peony. And then thinking about my ego self, another easy tool is name your ego, name your pet. My pet's name is Pete. He's a golden doodle. It's very different than Peony. Pete is a golden doodle. He's kind of all over the place. He can be a little, gets real, get real kind of finicky. Pete's a very different vibration than Peony. And I know when Pete is driving the bus because everything is right, wrong, good, bad, all, nothing. No solution, no smile, no creativity. That's when Pete has taken control. And then it's time to connect to Peony. When we anchor into that connection to Peony, you can literally in your mind's eye, talk to your ego self and thank them. Even here, it's like, Pete, thank you so much. I appreciate everything that you're doing to help support me. And then you can even go one step further and say, to Pete, what is something that you want me to know? And listen. And the interesting thing is that part of yourself will speak to your spirit. And even there, you can, with, your beautiful spirit of embracing, taking your creative, critical, but protective ego self and connecting it to your spirit and helping to reassure it. You are safe. You are not alone. And I am here. And an interesting thing will happen is that part that gets protective, that gets critical, that disconnects, that's trying to figure it out, will start to relax. It will. It'll start to reconnect to the spirit and think, okay, I'm not alone. I am protected. And I can let my spirit lead. Oh. And just even there, anytime you feel any part of yourself when you're like, I can't seem to access I can't, just that simple tool, you'll be surprised at how much that part of our protective self relaxes when we give it a little bit of attention, recognition for its creative self with its little toolkit that it has, it's just trying its best, but that it doesn't need to be in charge. And the more that we allow ourselves to do that, it's interesting. What happens is all of us softens. We soften. We soften to the world. We soften to ourselves. We soften to the human part of ourselves. That is navigating a very complicated experience of what it means to be a human being. This is where we can anchor into compassion and deep love and appreciation for all of us. And the more that we allow ourselves to do that, the more that we spend this time with our spirit, the more that all of us arranges and we come back into what we call our natural divine way. You came in with your beautiful spirit. The work that you're doing and trusting your intuition is, like I said, an uncovering. So I'll also really in this a really beautiful way that we can start to not only acknowledge is I have a jar, I don't have it with me, but writing down 3 things that you love about yourself, 3 things that you know to be true, and 3 things that you're grateful for. You can write on a little Post-it note. I like to put it, I have a big jar. And it's a really simple, it takes 2 minutes in the morning, but it's a very simple, powerful way to lead not only with your own spirit, but anchor yourself into that heart vibration and to acknowledge all of the beautiful things that you do, how you show up, all the beautiful gifts of your spirit, all the beautiful gifts of your intuition, of yourself, because what it does, it trains you to pay attention. We have something called the evolutionarily, the negativity bias. We're always trying to see what's not working. We developed it from a long time ago to make sure there weren't saber-toothed tigers around every corner. We needed to know what was working and what wasn't working. But now, saber-toothed tiger is probably my iPhone more than anything, than it is anything out in the world. But when we can start to change that frequency and start to pay attention, it starts to affirm and recognize and let that ego part of ourselves that says, what's not working? How can I protect us? To start to see what is working. What do I love? Who am I? What are my gifts? What are my gifts? As my Nana would always, just say, like, you are spirit. You are divine. You are an absolute blessing. You cannot improve on what God made, which is you. All you can do is just allow more of it. And the way that we do that is by connecting and celebrating ourselves. And then from there, we can open up to guidance. Anytime you show up, even just the other day, I had my partner needed a suit altered, and he brought it down to this place down the street. And what he failed, he's going to a wedding. What he failed to recognize was that my Thumbelina is not open every day of the week. It has a very erratic schedule. It's like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they're off. And so Thursday, we're showing up. He's got to get on the plane to go to this wedding. And we go to knock on the door. and we go to show up, it's closed, right? Now, here's the difference between a 5 sensory and a 6 sensory. He is 6 sensory, but this is the difference. So he said, "Ah, dang, what are we gonna do? You're gonna have to FedEx me my suit. It's closed. It's over." We get in the car and he's like, "I have to call Jim. You have to tell him that I don't have a suit for his wedding." And when we are in our heads, we say, there is no solution. That's it. Done. Too bad. We're gonna have to FedEx suit. Maybe. Oh no. I took a second and I just took a breath and I said, my spirit says to go knock on the door, even though all the lights are off. Go knock on the door. Now, when you let your head play, it'll say, "Oh, no. Why would you do that? Nobody's there. Still, that's dumb. Waste of time." But when you connect, my spirit said, "No, go knock on the door." So I go, I stand there, completely dark, knock on the door, quiet, standing there, taking a breath. And all of a sudden, a woman came out. She was in the back. It was working away. But had I not made the choice, it's like where you're intuitive, it'll have a hit and will tell you something. And then you have a choice. Are you going to think about it? If I thought about it, my head would be like, no way. Nope, that's dumb. Nobody's there. It's their day off. But that's where we open up to, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Let's see how I can expect. Can I repeat those 3 things? Which ones? I'm like, oh, what were my 3 things where I was in I'd say first, I was open up, expect good things. First, check in. Yeah. Ask yourself, how does this appear? And what is my choice? What do I want guidance on? And then put ourselves in that listening state and don't think about it. Notice what are the subtle things that'll come in and ask yourself, how available am I? 3 things you love about yourself, 3 things you are grateful for, and 3 things that, I always like to say you're proud of. What are the 3 things you love about yourself? 3 things that you're grateful for, 3 things that you're proud of. If I had it, I have my jar and here it is. My jar. And I fill it and it's nice to look at, and when it gets full, later I break it and then I look and I will see all of these things and I write down the date too. And you'll notice that the energy will accumulate. It'll accumulate. And what we were talking about earlier, it's like finding that place of loving and accepting yourself, being out in the world. It's like, hey, I know who I am. I know what I love about myself. I know what I'm doing. And that in and of itself is your power. We give away our power to other people all the time because our world has been trained to look outside of ourselves for what is right. You go to school, you want the right answer. You want to make sure your teacher does the right thing. You want to, you have your boss. You have to do things right. We constantly are asking outside of ourselves. Am I okay? Is this right? Is this true? And when we can start to go inward, I know, even if we might not see eye to eye, I know who I am. And I can also see who you are too. I can see your little barking dog. I can see your Great Dane that's patrolling the borders. And even there, I can have compassion. And I don't need to get into a dog fight. I don't need to explain myself. I don't need to get into it. But I can just be available. I can be available for a surprise. I can be available for something different. I love that. Always trust yourself first. Yes. Yes. And the way that we practice trusting ourselves is by listening to our intuition. When you have those hits, he did get his suit. If you don't end up regretting it, but I'm going to say this. When you living a life connected to your intuition with your spirit doesn't mean life isn't going to happen. Life happens. But you're connected to more support, more availability, and you'll know regret is the part of ourselves that likes to look back and be critical. You don't know what soul lessons will show up in any moment that in that moment might not make sense, but later down the line make a lot of sense. Now, I remember, for example, I moved, so I was living in Paris with my mom. And my partner invited, he was going to move to Paris with me. He's in the music industry. This was like 2018. And we were gonna move beginning of 19. And we went on a trip to Thailand together in January. And we're sitting, I'm there, we're gonna be in Thailand for 2 months. First day I've seen him, and he said, Sonia, I have to tell you something. I'm got contracted to do a tour in the States, and it's gonna be too expensive for me to fly back and forth. I just can't. Would you be willing to move to the United States for a year? And I said, no, absolutely not. No, I love Paris. No, absolutely not. And then he said, well, what about New Orleans? And out of my mouth popped yes before I could even think about it. And I was like, all right, I guess that was my spirit. I'm like, all right. I've never been to New Orleans. I know nothing about, I know a little bit about New Orleans, but I'm a northerner. As I was saying earlier, I didn't even know Alabama had a beach till I moved down here. No. So I'm like, where are we moving? What's even happening? How am I gonna? So we were in Bangkok. We're gonna meet some friends. We met a friend some musicians. They're playing a show. And I tell our friend Brock, we just met. I said, we decided that we're gonna move to New Orleans. He said, actually, I have a friend who's been living in this building for 10 years. Him and his wife just bought the condo across the hall. They're renovating it and they're looking for a subletter. It's a perfect neighborhood, pool, parking, beautiful windows, very cheap, great neighborhood, great by the grocery store. You'll love it. And so, all right, now all of a sudden I had an apartment. Okay, I'm like, all right. So we signed this lease, sight unseen, in Thailand. And my family, like, I'm very close with my family. They're like, what are you doing? Where are you going? Are you traveling and following this boy? Like, what are you doing? You love living in Paris. And I'm like, I know. I don't know. I gotta go. So I flew from Thailand to taught a workshop with my mom. My partner came here to New Orleans, the home we are in right now, got some different things, helped, just very basic stuff. Our neighbors across the hall, super nice, helped us get a couch before we were here, left us a bed, like some dishes, did some very simple decorating, but then he had to go on tour. So I arrived here in New Orleans alone at night, and I walk into this apartment and I'm like, where am I? Where am I? I have now moved halfway across the world away from my family. I work for myself. I know absolutely no one. And I'm in what city am I in? And for a long time, it was my spirit gave me the intuition to move here. And it was tough. It was tough. I had made friends. I had to navigate my family system that did not understand what I was doing. I was navigating myself, wondering, what am I doing? Where am I? Is this the decision that I need to make? And that's also that's why we say intuition takes courage, because you got to sit in the fire. My intellect didn't make sense. It did not make sense. I'm like, what am I doing? But when you sit, and I sat with it and I decided, and I was here, and then it was the best decision that I ever made. It was tough for sure, but it allowed me to evolve and grow into another part of myself that I would not have been able to had I stayed in Europe. I had to have the evolution away from my own very supportive, wonderful family system to really get to know who I was in present time. And if in that moment I could have gotten caught up in regret, for sure. What am I doing? Where am I? How did I decide to do this? I can't believe I've made a huge mistake. Also, right afterwards, we were going to be here for a year, and then the panini hit, as I like to call it. And so then I was here, and my head can be very hard on myself. But when we trust my intuition and my spirit later, it's not regret. It was an opportunity of growth. And so we can reframe the decisions that we made with the knowledge that we had in that moment, good, bad, or indifferent. We can celebrate that you did the best you could in the moment that you had, and now you get to make a new decision. Being a human being is soul school, 100%. We are constantly learning. And the more that we can really acknowledge and have compassion for all of our versions of ourselves, you know, who I am now is different than I was a few years ago, or than different than I was a few years ago. And that's also where we can connect to that place of our own spirit to move forward, you know, so we can place that place of listening, of being present, of listening. And I would say, you know, of being for you, especially just really gentle with yourself, you know, really framing the different ways that you have shown up and done your best. I mean, you're here. There are a lot of people who are not even that conscious or self-aware at all. And even to just know that I am doing my best, and I am somebody who shows up, and I am somebody who tries, and I am somebody who cares, and I am somebody who has it as a value system in and of itself is something to be proud of, something to celebrate. Oh, and when we can do that, you'll just notice, like, that's where we say our place of gratitude. We come back and just say, you know, and where we can get out of right, wrong, good, bad, all, nothing. That's your intellect. We call that the bad neighborhood. Because you'll never figure it out. It'll never be enough. It won't. There'll always be mistakes. And you'll notice in your whole body, it closes up. Oh. And we'll even hunch our shoulders and close off our heart space to protect ourselves. But we recognize that that's not real protection. You are divinely protected. Your protection is knowing who you are and having that be what leads. Because that's where we can be flexible. That's where we can be available. That's where we can really celebrate. So, you know, more than anything, because I'll wait the last part to really have some different questions, but, you know, first, like I said, pay attention. One, your spirit, name it, build a relationship with it. Be as interested as you would be with the most wonderful person sitting across from you. Asking it questions, giving it your attention, bringing it gifts and flowers, and just giving that part of yourself, it will be a game changer. Naming, just spending even a moment, hand on your heart, hand on your belly, and before, as you wake up, even just as before you open your eyes and go into the world, you'll become attuned to your beautiful radio frequency, your beautiful vibration that is uniquely you as a divine manifestation. And that alone will allow you to start to move through the world with the grace that you have within you. Even that, what does my spirit say? What do I want to create next? What does my spirit say? Can I just start to speak it out? Can I start to give myself permission to listen and just feel? It's not about right or wrong. That's your head. You know, is my ego, are the parts of myself get scared? Am I overwhelmed? Am I in overthinking? This is a red flag. I need to connect back to my spirit. I need to spend some time here in my physical body to reassure those parts, because it's okay. It's not about having to wrestle your humanness down. That's not going to work. I've tried. But about giving ourselves more allowing and more space, you know, and even there, taking a breath. Where am I breathing? Am I breathing in my shoulders? Am I here? In through your nose, going down the slide. And even there, you'll start to push the energy away. Is this even my own energy? It's a good question to ask. What beautiful little thing do I want to experience next? And if your head's like, I don't know. Start to look in your life. Everything within you is a manifestation and is a mirroring of your creating, of your creation. Celebrate, you are a good creation. The things that you create, good creations. Good job. And when we can just allow that, say, okay, well, what do you want intuitive guidance on? Ask, and then listen. Being available, opening up that space, speaking out loud. My spirit says, fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. And you'll notice the more that you do that, the easier it will come. Boom. My spirit says, anytime you come up against anything that seems that is a problem, it's an invitation for creativity. How can I show up and open up to something that I may have not always thought of, and make it a game? Make it a game. We can make it fun. Not only is that the language of the divine, not only is that your spirit, but it will open and engage your creativity. Now, what's right or wrong? How, it's like it's like if you see a puddle, go over it, around it, under it, jump over it, And when we can do that in our life, we'll notice so many different opportunities, so many different things that start to show up, And just even, even there, never expect that what you know is all there is to know. Appearance is the most unreliable thing. When we open up and are creative, when we feed our spirit, name our spirit, open up, everything will start to shift. And your languaging, it's like a skill. It's like, so just spend more time with it. Just a few minutes every day will be a game changer, 110%. So I feel like I want to make sure that I have time for questions, anything.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's just such a thrill to see you and hear you and see how you've evolved and grown. And it's just, it's very touching and very special.
Oh, thank you, Diane. I just am so grateful to you. I feel like I just, I've known you a long time. My mom, my Nana, and I feel so honored to be invited into this space. So thank you for just sharing your beautiful light.
I feel like you all are part of my spiritual family, and there's a connection. I got to know your grandmother very well and spent many happy hours with her over the years, and your mother as well. And your dad has the same birthday as I do.
Oh, really? A Gemini babe.
I have Pisces rising. So
I love it. That's your deep intuitive self. I love it. As a fellow Pisces too. Well, I think Kathy, I have a website. You can go to soniatully.com. I do readings and mentoring. You can also find me on my YouTube. I do a weekly lesson every week for free. I think this week we were talking about oracle cards, using with your spirit guides. I teach different workshops. My mom and I have a podcast. So there's tons of different avenues, but soniatully.com is a great place to start.
And she does readings too.
Yeah.
They're wonderful. So it's a good person to know for everyone.
Yeah. You can go to my site. Yeah, I do intuitive readings and mentoring if you're interested, but I have all sorts of different offerings. I have an online course. I have a book. You are amazing, obviously, because you are. You cannot improve upon your spirit, as my Nana would say. Oh, you met my mom 45 years ago for a reading when she was talking to the Unity. Oh, I love that, Craig. I remember Unity. That's one of my favorite. I go into all those different places as a kid. I feel like it was such a blessing. But I'm so grateful for you coming today. I'm Sonia Jr. Yeah. And I feel like later, if you guys have any questions, you're like, hey, I need some more support with this, please don't hesitate to email me. You can email me at sonia@soniatully.com if you have any other questions. You're like, hey, this came up and maybe I want some more clarifications. Just know that I'm a resource for support. And I just, again, really want to thank you for spending your Saturday afternoon with me. Your time, your energy, and your spirit is so appreciated. So just from the bottom of my heart, and thank you, Diane, for inviting me to teach. It really means a lot. Thank you so much.
Yes, it means a lot to me to have you as well.
Yeah.
Many blessings.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. Does anybody have other questions or anything?
Next book coming out.
Pardon?
When is your next coming out?
I'm writing my book right now currently. So we'll see, hopefully maybe a year or so. It's always longer, but I'll definitely let you know.
What's it about?
My book right now is really about getting to know yourself, about connecting back to your own spirit and using that as a way to lead. So intuition, and also just I find that nowadays, especially for a lot of younger people, we have so many different ways of how we have our online selves, we have ourselves with our family. So just really how to anchor and build a relationship with your spirit so you can have that be a leader and a healer in life.
Wonderful. I can't wait. I look forward to it. And I'm getting older, so I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here, but even after I leave, I'm going to keep tabs on you. So I'm expecting to see all kinds of things.
I love it. Well, I'll send you, when I'm working my rough draft, I'll send it to you. You can help give me notes.
Yes, that would be great. Well, does anybody else have any other questions? If not, we can let me just put a brief note in here to explain that next month we're having Diane Goebel speak for us. She's written 3 books and she's a spiritual teacher. And I tried several years ago. She's now in her 80, and she's about 80, I think. And she stopped traveling a few years ago, and I invited her to come speak, and she said, no, I'm not traveling anymore. And now we have a pandemic, and this is one of the gifts of the pandemic. She's going to speak for us from her home. So she will be our speaker next month. And the following month, we'll have PMA Chatwater, who will be talking about what she did during the 9/11 happening. She went out of body to help the people coming out of the wreckage, and she has an intense story about that. I think everybody will really enjoy hearing all about that from her perspective. And we will see what happens after that. We don't know yet. But again, thank you, Sonia. It's just wonderful to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you guys all so much. It's a real honor, and hopefully until we can meet again in person. But again, thank you guys so much. From the bottom of my heart.
Hopefully you can come back. We can meet in person again. That would be good. We can bring you here. Yeah. There was something else I was going to say that just escaped my head. I don't remember what it was, but that's right. Anyway.
Thanks, Sonia. Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
Thank you.